Hello, hello, and welcome. Uh, Tab, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Man, I love your intro. I think that's amazing. I was
Thank
kind of
you
sitting
so
there
much.
enjoying the music and bouncing around. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes, yes. So, as you know, this is the One Self podcast, and we cover seven categories of overall wellness from emotional, financial, physical, spiritual, environmental, social, and fun. And I know you can cover many of these topics. And so I'm looking forward to getting to know you and this even more. So tell me a little bit about your journey in entrepreneurship and what sparked that interest.
Everything's a journey, right? So I mean, it never goes the way that you want it to go. So you kind of look at there's the start and there's the finish, and you're like, or where you're going, you're like, this is gonna be awesome, and then there's all the stuff that happens in the middle of it, and hopefully you come out over here at some point in time. But my journey started. I was way back in the day. I was a sales guy, and I did really well. I was always number one on my team, and I made it. I finally went, man, why am I doing this for somebody else? I should be doing this for myself. And so I
Absolutely.
went into business and quickly realized that I had no idea what I was doing, that I was a good salesperson. I was not a good business person. I made bad business decisions. And I had numerous companies probably over the next 15 years between that first one till Caliber, where I started Caliber Security Partners. That was just, I look back at them, and some of them I'm like, man, that was just dumb, and some of them they're like, I'm like, that could have been really cool. And so that journey is, a process of learning and allowing yourself to fail and and succeed too, but to fail. And it's been, I've been on my own for crud 30 years just about.
Wow, that's amazing. Sounds like a interesting journey, and I'm sure, 'cause, I mean, from sales to author to now tech person. I mean, you do so many things. I don't know how you balance it all. I really don't.
There's always a challenge, and there's always a way, and it just, we can talk about that if you want, about balancing and that, but yeah, it's a really, it's an art. I don't know how else to say it. It's an art form.
It
So
is work-life balance. Everybody needs it. You have to just kind of like sometimes you have to like sit with yourself. Many times when I feel overwhelmed in my journey, I'm like, let me sit down, let me think about this, let me write it down, because sometimes we get so much in our head and we're just like, well, this is not working out, and that's not working out, and why is this not working out, and I'm networking, I'm putting myself out there, you know.
yeah, and some of it is just, taking a step back and realizing that it not working out is really not a bad thing, right? I mean, we're like, why isn't this working? And if you liken it to going to the gym and lifting weights, if you never ever put stress on your body, you'd be like, well, what am I doing, right? But it's that stress on your body that allows you to like reach the next level, and you're like, okay, I can lift more now. But when we do that for business or our career, like because it's human nature to add more and to do more and to want to be more, and then it stresses us, and then we're like, why isn't it working? It's like, because that's how life is. If
Right.
everything goes easy, there's no learning growth. But we don't want the learning growth, we just want the positive results.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and so we have to kind of learn to like embrace that, and whatever you want to call it, embrace the suck or whatever, but it really is, a part of what we have to learn to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even with work too, like sometimes we have to just like manage the time management factor is so important because you're only one person. There's only so many hours in your day.
And
So
yeah, and one of the things that I tell people all the time is that I'm a firm believer. People say, you only have so much time, and it's like, yeah, that's true, but you can buy time. And I mean, there are things that I don't do, right. I don't I don't do my whatever you call it, my landscaping, my yard. I don't clean my pool. I
Yeah.
don't, do graphic design work. I don't do a lot of things because I have people that do that. And it's constantly, how do I add more people? And like in my security company, I don't do any of the actual testing, right? We have people that do that. It's the same thing, right? I mean, you have to focus on, where you can have the greatest impact and also the least amount of resistance to yourself.
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. I believe that strongly. So, tell me a little bit about, why cybersecurity is so important. I know you have a business, so why would
Yeah.
you think it's really important?
So it's cybersecurity has changed over the years. It's interesting because we throw more money at it and we throw more people at it and we get um, more vulnerabilities. We get the level of vulnerabilities, ransomware, attacks, everything else, just goes up, right? And so, you would think more money, more people, we get it under control, and we're not.
Yeah.
And but for years, it was really the mindset of the big companies, the Microsofts and the Googles and the Facebooks and whatnot, where they focused on security, and small businesses really didn't focus on it. And they would, and I would hear this all the time where people would say, well, I'm not really a target because I'm a small business. Who has an interest in me?
Yeah.
And the truth is, like, nobody's absolved from a potential attack. And so, I've had people say, all I have is an online brochure, and I'm like, well, where do you host it? Like, and they're like, well, I have a WordPress
Mhm.
website. WordPress is the most, in my opinion, the most vulnerable platform that a small business person can use, and most people have it. And the reason why is they use plugins, and those are open source free plugins, and
Mhm.
nobody is updating those plugins. So you have trust that they're um, uh, safe, but they're not. And so there's like millions of hacks that happen a year to small businesses because of WordPress, which is why we use like Wix or Squarespace or something like that. And we pay like 35 bucks a month because they take care of all of that. And I don't have to worry about it. And people are like, yeah, but I don't want to spend 35 bucks. And it's like, what would you rather spend money on an attack? And
Yeah.
the other thing is it's not like there's an individual out looking at a small business. It's a bot. And so a
Yeah.
bot scans for certain things. And
Mhm.
if they find you and you're vulnerable, the bot's not going to be like, I don't care. They're a small company. They
Yeah.
just see the opportunity to exploit. So yeah, that's why it's important so much. And it's really important that small businesses take that seriously because
Absolutely.
it's their livelihood.
Exactly. And I know there's lots of myths of cybersecurity for small business. There's a lot. Like we think like, okay, well, we're trusting this person to take over our account to like edit things of our website, right? But we don't know exactly, you're giving them all this permission, but you don't know how far they can go because, they can start, you know, taking money from your accounts and things like that just when you least expect it.
Yeah, and I think some of the myths have to do with trusting the wrong people, like you said, and just the simple thing to do is like don't give them full access to everything. I mean, you wouldn't give them full access to your bank account, but you have no issues giving them full access to your website. So you have to be careful with that. To me, the big myth though is that I'm a small business, so I'm not a target. That
Mhm.
is still the biggest myth that I see, small businesses have, is that they just don't think they're a target.
Mhm, mhm. And it's when you least expect it, when you're not looking, that it happens. And so that's
Yeah.
why it's one of those things that you have to keep on top of mind. And there are people like you that can educate them through the process.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
it
that
doesn't it doesn't have to
important.
be hard. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be difficult, and it doesn't even have to be, well, I mean, everything has a cost. So if you're a really poor small business, it could be like $1, and that's like a lot of money. So, but normally it's not that much money.
Correct, correct. And that is very true, very true. So I also know you're an author and you've written a
Mhm.
book called Outlast Everything, and I know you have two others, but I want
Mhm.
you to just touch on Outlast Everything a little bit and what you speak about in it.
Yeah. So out, Outlast Everything was almost my um, I want to say my rebuttal to my first book, right? My first book was super raw, super. It was when I was going through $1 million in debt,
Mhm.
and so everything was like a nerve. Outlast Everything was more of the okay, here's the now that the smoke is cleared, here's all of the lessons learned, and this is kind of how you go about like really building something and
Right,
knowing that when you come out the other end, that you're going to have the things that you want, the things that you need, and that it's a process. And I have people that'll say, yeah, of course, Outlast Everything. It's like, okay, but how do you do it? How do you go about making sure that you do the little things that you need to do day in and day out, that's really going to drive you to that and the outcome you want. That's the thing that people don't realize is like there's the outcome they want and the outcome that they get,
right,
and
yeah.
those two don't always match.
And then in transition, I feel like you have to start thinking like you're going to get through this. If you get through the bottom and you think I'm always going to be at the bottom, that's the mindset that you're putting in yourself. And I think that there's power of positive thinking, and you have to start telling yourself like I'm going to outlast this. I'm going to, I am strong. I can find the right resources. The more you say I am going to do it, it's going to start to manifest. And I'm a big person of manifestation. Also success. Like what does success really define? Like how do you define success? It's
Yeah.
up to you, you know?
Yeah. And I want to answer that, but I will say, and I'm an absolute believer in positive mindset,
Mhm.
but we always have to back up positive mindset with facts, right? Like
Absolutely
like like what got us in trouble and $1 million in debt was
correct.
positive attitude. And the positive attitude was like, we can get enough revenue to outrun this problem,
Yeah,
and that was more revenue wasn't the problem. So it was like my positive attitude actually got in the way of our success. And so your question was, how do I define success? Was that the question? Hey, it is. How do you define success? And for me, I think success is when the things that are important in your life are met. So it doesn't, if you are, I mean, look, there's all kinds of like very wealthy people, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, that have all gone through
right.
divorce, right? And they've all haven't been able to, at least in my opinion, maintain the thing that is most important, and that's their marriage and their family and that. So to me, great. You know what? I can be successful in business, and then my personal life sucks, and so I'm not a success. So I think for me, success really is when all those things are working well, and they don't even have to be phenomenal. They just have to be working well. And if you have a great family relationship, if you're married, like I am, if I have a great like marital relationship,
Mhm.
and if I feel like I'm right with God, or
Absolutely.
tracking to be right with God. I'll say it
Yeah,
that way, right? Because I'm not perfect, but I feel like if I'm tracking, then I can get to the success level I need.
absolutely. And I love that. I love that. Now my next question is related more towards your networking group that you have.
Hmm.
So you have Networked Live. That's where I met you. Um, and then I also got to meet you through someone here in Yuma, Derek.
Yeah,
So with the Sales Pro method, great guy.
yeah.
Um, he's he's inspiring. You're inspiring. I'd love to hear more about what does leadership mean to you.
You know, for me, leadership is when I'm willing to put the greater good of those around me, or yeah, really those around me, not necessarily always in front of my needs, but that I never put my needs over everybody else's with the intent of getting a gain. So, you know, I mean, obviously, I have to be whole and I have to be good and I have to be strong. But you know, it's you know, I was talking to somebody. You know, I spent a lot of time in you know the corner of speakers. You know, like people that a lot of people know that are you know that are really well known. You know, presenters, speakers. They're on this circuit and everything else. And I've spent a lot of time with them. And one of the things I've learned, and I really hated learning this, and it's that there's a lot of people out there that their attitude is, you know, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing this for me, and if it benefits you, then man, isn't that great? And so my attitude is, I want to do what's beneficial to everybody else, and that some of that's going to trickle down to me, right?
Correct.
And so leadership is the for me the ability to take care of other people, and knowing that some of that's going to trickle down to you, and
Yep.
that you know by doing that you know becomes more that servant leader, or you know whatever you want to call that.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And I think also, like, as you give back and as you become a leader,
Hmm.
things in life start changing for you. Things start, people are attracted to you, because now you're giving them, authentically who you are, versus just being like, oh, I want to make that sale. I want to make that sale. Because
Yeah,
people will buy and benefit your business if they know, like, and trust you.
absolutely, absolutely.
I think that's really important, with anything you do, business or life.
Yep. No, I completely agree.
Yes. And so that leads me into my next topic. What are the benefits of networking? I know you do a network live event every month.
Yeah.
Um, what would you say is the benefits of networking?
So the you know we acquired a company about 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and we rebranded it as Network Live.
Hmm.
And you know our goal is to you know really help individuals and businesses maximize the cycle of prosperity.
Hmm.
And you know the benefit is that if you actually network and you play the long game, and you
Hmm.
look at, you know, I'm going to be around for a long time and I'm going to build strong relationships. And then ultimately, like you said, like no one trust,
Hmm.
that's the benefit. And some of the benefits that I've seen is we get really, you know, tunnel vision, and we're like, you know, I am, you know, whatever. I'm a mortgage lender, and you know, I'm looking for somebody that does this. And so
Correct.
you know you put on those blinders and you don't see the other things out there. And I mean, and I've done that. You know, I mean, half of our pipeline for Caliber Security Partners comes from people within Network Live, and I tried to keep those two separate for 2.5, 3 years because I
Hmm.
didn't think the two matched. You know, I'm in the process of, well, I've already founded it, but we have a security company that we started called Lunar, Lunir,
Hmm.
and it's not an AI company, but it has a huge AI component. And I intentionally say it that way because I don't want us to be lazy and lean on AI, but it has a huge AI component.
Hmm.
And you know, we were looking for a specific type of person,
Hmm.
and we were having a hard time finding that person. And we're at one of our morning coffee mixers for Network Live, and
Hmm.
people were going around introducing themselves, and this guy stands up and says, you know, I'm an AI and machine learning, you know, I've got a double master's or whatever it is, and this is what I do. And I looked at him, I'm like, man, what are you doing here? And he goes, well, I'm actually here to see my CPA.
Oh,
But
wow.
he said, come on in, and you know, because he was here.
Yeah.
And so we sat down and talked. And here's the benefit. Okay, we sat down and talked, and he said, "There's a guy I want you to meet that leads AI at Carvana." And he
Mhm.
goes, "You want an introduction?" And that night we met with that guy. If we would have called that guy and said, "Hey, can we meet with you?" He wouldn't have returned our message. And it ended up being we met with him that night. And so to me, the big benefit is years ago when I wanted to sell something or I wanted to get an introduction, there was a gatekeeper, a person, a secretary, receptionist
Correct.
that kind of guarded what I did. Now that is the people in your network. It's me, it's you, it's this guy
Yep.
that we met. And the benefit is if you know the right people, they can introduce you to people that may have a project for you
Yep.
or may be able to benefit you in other ways. And so to me, that's the benefit is just the people, just get to know more people.
Yes, and then you get recognized too because you start showing up a little different every time. Like the topics you talk about, the things, the people you meet, the people who know other people that may be of benefit to you. Because just coming from your event alone, I wasn't. I was just going there just because I'm in Yuma, and obviously Phoenix is a bigger market for me to grow my consulting and things like that. So I would go, and I would always want to bring a friend. And I said, in the last event, I was like, I came solo and I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know who I'm going to talk to. But then there was two or three individuals from a unicorn event and the guy, DJ Barton from Lavardi, he
Yep.
and I started getting to talking and he's like, hey, how long are you in town? I was like, oh, just for a few days. He's like, let's meet for coffee or lunch or whatever tomorrow. And I was like, tomorrow? He's like, yeah, you're only here for 3 days. So we met and gave me some really cool advice. And he says, have you ever thought about affiliate relationships? Because you are a connector and you have the personality to learn different things and you like to be a leader. So it's like, what if I give you an opportunity? And I thought, this is coming out of nowhere. I just met him for one day, not even a day, a couple hours. But that conversation ended up with more conversations, and then now it's just I'm glad that I use his service because when you travel, you get these really amazing discounts just for being part of an affiliate network.
Yeah.
Um, it's great because you just never know what you don't know unless you go and
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah. And do you know what percent of people that sign up for an event show up for an event? What do you think it is?
50.
Did you say 50? It's our number shows it's 41%. So that
Mm-hmm.
means 59% of the people register and don't show up. If you don't show up to an event, then you have zero opportunity to expand your business. And 59% of the people, something happens and they don't show up. And so, always show up. And there are some people out there that show up for every single thing. Like they'll go to 5 or 6 events a week.
Yep. Yep, I know people like that.
Yeah, but you know what? They get phone calls and
Yep.
people refer them and they do business and I mean I get those because we do so many events like my you know I do have a quote. I'll save it to the end, right? Of if I have time, like that I've learned over time based upon networking. So
Of course. Of course. So, what would you tell somebody who's new to networking? Brand new, never been to a networking event, saw it online, said, I'm going to come. What would you tell them?
I would say, don't overthink it. Just show up. And a lot of times people are nervous, and they're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? What am I, And I'm
Yeah.
like, what the best thing to say is tell me about yourself.
Hmm.
And then that way you have to get them talking, right? And then you become the listener. And
Yes.
but I just think, don't take yourself so seriously, right? And find the event organizer and just introduce yourself and even tell them, this is my first event and I'm nervous, right? And like people will do that to us, and we'll just say like, hey, I'll be your wingman, right? I'll take care of, or I guess my wife says wing woman. I don't know what she says, but it becomes like, find people that will like that you can just be around, right? And I think that goes a long way to like easing that nervousness.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the more you come, the more you get opportunities for collaborations.
Yep.
And it's things that you never think are gonna. You're like, oh, what does this person's business have to do with my business? But then you get to talking one on one, and then you're like, oh wow, like there is a way to scale that I didn't think about, or there's something I could learn from this individual, from their
Yeah.
business journey. So
And that can I talk about the collaboration for a second?
you
Um,
do.
so one of the things that like we are constantly, I am constantly discovering new ways to collaborate, and it like expand, like it challenges me and expands my thought process. And so in cybersecurity, we started networking with all of these channel partners, managed service providers, managed security service providers, people that are in IT that sell services.
Yeah.
And early on, we all kind of looked at each other and we're like, "This is fun. We're going to Top Golf and we're doing this thing, but what are we doing?" But what happened was, is we realized like there's a real benefit, even if we compete, to potentially collaborate. And like
Right.
you start to build these collaboration models. And you know um you know that often one of the things that I will hear from people is, I don't want to collaborate with my competitors. And like, you definitely want to collaborate with your competitors, because the chances of them doing everything that you do is minimal, if not non-existent. And there's times where you might need them for overflow work. But then there's all these other things, like you mentioned with DJ Barton, where
Mhm.
you show up and then he's talking about like, hey, what about this? And
Yes.
like with Caliber, I mean, not with Caliber, with Network Live,
Yes.
it's like we've got all of these things going. And, we have people that'll come to us and say, can I resell your services? And can I, because we have all these things that we're developing and have developed, and we've kind of gone like, yeah, just hang with us, just let us develop it, let us get it all like fine tuned in that, and we're close. But that collaboration becomes critical for growth for
Ab-
everybody, like not
Absolutely.
just the company, but for the individuals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then as you collaborate, you build your business relationship stronger and stronger. And
Mhm.
then you just never know what you never know. Like maybe that person might become a business partner, or maybe, it's going to scale your business in a way you never imagined, you know?
Yeah, and
Um,
and those relationships open the doors, right? I mean, I'm thinking about two situations for my company Caliber. One of them is some specific application security testing that, had we not collaborated, I would never have known about that project. It's $25,000. I wouldn't have known about it because this person knew this person that knows this person, and they need our services, and none of the three of those have that. And
right.
so, we collaborate, and then we give a little bit of a portion of it to them to, for the finders, and that a decent, it's not just a little, it's actually fairly significant.
Right.
But, to me, that is, that's the win. And the other one that was really interesting is I reached out to, somebody had said, hey, they were a director of a county agency here in Maricopa County, and they'd reached out and said, hey, or I'd talked to them. They're like, oh, you got to reach out to our IT manager. They may need a pen test sometime. Reach out to the IT manager.
Right.
Thanks. We don't need anything right now. 2 days later, a partner gets a hold of us and says, our client needs a pen test. And it was not only that agency, but that person. And so,
Wow.
because I didn't know the person, they didn't feel comfortable. But because of that, the person in the relationship knew them, they felt comfortable. It's weird. They didn't even remember that I'd even reached out to them. And I didn't want to say, like, hey, what the crap? But I thought that, right? But
Yeah, of
it
course.
just proves how important relationships are.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, given that, what is the best advice you received from a fellow business person?
Business advice for it's really it almost all comes down to really understand your money, understand your finances, understand the difference between revenue and sales, understand how you really figure out gross margins, right? How do you um, how you make the money work for you, because if you can figure that part out, and you do really well with that, you can it gives you the runway to build and to grow and to do other things in your business. But if you're always poor because you're chasing the dollar, and I've been there, like it still happens, right? Because the more you get, the more you need, and then things start to do that. So the more you can control that, the better off you're going to be.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. So, if you could use one word to describe your mission in your entrepreneur journey, what would you say that one word is?
One word that describes
Mission
my mission.
or your legacy or whatever it is that you want.
The word that always comes to mind is persistent, or persistence. And the reason why is, I tell people all the time, the reason why I've been successful is because I'm consistent.
Mhm.
But for me, persistence kicks in when you don't feel like being consistent. So
Yeah.
persistence is that dog determination that you're going to do it when you don't feel like doing it.
Mhm, mhm. And that's pretty much is your inspiration too, because the more like what inspires you daily, you're persistent, you're consistent, you're you're finding your inspiration every single day. Or what is it to you? You
So
know?
what inspires me, right? The really what inspires me is knowing what the outcome can be within reason. I mean, I'm not a freaking magic eight ball, right? But I can know what the future is within reason if I have really understand what my goals are,
Mhm.
how I reverse engineer those goals, how I live them forward, and
Right.
how I really plan and manage my, even down to the hour. And that came from my first book, and then what I called the opportunity pipeline, and what I built to get out a million out of debt
Mhm.
was living that. And so the reason why that inspires me is because I know that if I go through the things that we set up, or that I set up in the opportunity pipeline,
Mhm.
that my day is going to come out within 80-90% of what I thought it would come out. And so,
Absolutely.
that's inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So, if you could network with one person, living or gone, who would it be?
It- um,
It's a hard one. I couldn't even think. I
so
was
so can I choose a type of person?
sure. Whatever.
Or even I give you a couple of examples. Like, one is the extreme one of Christ, or Jesus. The other would be Gandhi, or Mother Teresa, or even maybe Nelson Mandela. And the reason why is these people did what they did, and they communed, and they committed with people for reasons that had nothing to do with financial gain.
Yep.
And to me, if you can figure out how to achieve in life and be successful in life, and the financial gain is the outcome of serving and being a good person, then to me, that's the networking, right? I mean, because it's really easy to go like, oh man, it'd be Tony Robbins, it'd be Napoleon Hill, or whatever. And Like those guys all did it because they got financial gain and they help people, right? Too, but and they make money. And so for me, it would be the people that did it for all the right reasons.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, thank you so much for being on the show today. You shared so many amazing things and inspirational stories, and I look forward to our audience connecting with you afterwards. When is your next event for Network Live?
Oh, well, we have, I think we do about 15 a month online and in person. The next online one, what time is it?
Today, I mean, right now it's 11:13 in the morning.
It's in like 45 minutes. It's a online. We do a monthly business networking. It's not hugely attended, but that's the next one. And then from there, I think our big one, next big one, which we'll have 150 or so people at, which is at the W in Scottsdale, which is a phenomenal place, is June 10th.
Okay,
That's it.
wonderful. That's awesome. And so that information can be found on your website, networklive.com,
Yep.
and also through social media at the tab Peers. So, and if you want to watch the replay, guys, you can go to one at One Self Consulting on YouTube and my LinkedIn. And here's my website for more. So, thank you so much, Tab. This has been an awesome time getting to know
This
you.
has been this has been fun. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I wish you the best for your next event in 45 minutes. Take care, guys. Bye.
Thank
Have a good
you.